I'm a little confused by what they mean when they say upstate New York. I'm in Binghamton, which is like the southern part of New York, sort of central southern, but people keep saying upstate. So I don't know. This is Coast to Coast Pinball. This is episode 15. I got my smart water here. I hope it helps. So let's go. What's going on? Thank you for listening. This is Coast to Coast Pinball, episode 15. Depending on what time zone you want to count yourself in, it is August 11th, but my computer still on San Diego time says August 10th. 9:06 p.m. in San Diego, just after midnight here in Binghamton, New York. I spent the day in Ithaca, New York, and had high hopes of finding pinball in Ithaca and worked all day long and thought, I knew there was a Scared Stiff that I'd played before in Ithaca at a bar, and I was going to go play that, but when I got done with work, I just wanted to get to Binghamton. I was like, let's get out of here, because that's where my hotel was tonight. Ithaca is overrun with all the Cornell and Ithaca college students coming back, and all their parents with the freshmen, I guess. So there were no good hotels to stay there tonight. Plus, I got to be in New York City tomorrow, so I drove an hour south to Binghamton. I got here, got in my hotel. The sun was still up, because it was like just after 7 o'clock. I thought, you know what, there's got to be a pinball machine somewhere that can take my money, because I am Nate Shivers, this is Coast to Coast Pinball, and I am a man out of quarters, so I've got to live up to that, right? So I quickly jumped on the internet, just searched Binghamton, New York pinball, and I found a post from Pinside saying brand new arcade opens with pinball machines, and I literally ran out the door after checking their website and seeing that they closed at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock? On a Saturday night? Come on, guys. So anyway, I had a quick 5-minute drive over to Robot City Games in Binghamton, New York. Got there. They were closing at 8 o'clock, so I had about 35 minutes by the time I got there to play some pinball, and I actually went way past 8 o'clock. They had customers in the store, so we kept going. All worked out nicely. So we'll do a trip report on that tonight. Didn't really scope out Ithaca. I do go there a few times a year, so if anybody's listening from Ithaca, I would love to hear, what you think's going on there. Really starting to look forward to New York tomorrow, because I get to the city. In fact, that's why I'm recording this so late. I had sort of set myself a no start times after midnight rule so that I would not be loopy and make dumb mistakes and ramble on. I figure I'm getting to New York City tomorrow, late afternoon at worst, and there are multiple places to go play pinball, and that's number one priority tomorrow is to play some pinball. So I didn't want to lose track of what I've been doing here and what's been going on. Gotta say, my mailbag is full. I can't even actually, I may break my own rule about, mentioning everybody on air, because I've had a lot of very kind, just thank you emails for doing the podcast and people telling me where they're listening to them. So blanket thank you to all of you guys who've just said you're enjoying it. It means a lot to me. I appreciate it. Keep those coming. I'll reply to everybody for sure. I may not get to everybody on the podcast.
Trip reports.
So Robot City Games is located here in Binghamton, New York. Binghamton's definitely a town. I've not spent a lot of time here, but just driving through and seeing it, it's definitely one of those towns that I think probably boomed 30, 40 years ago. There's a lot of like downtown areas that look like older buildings, that maybe even farther back than that. I forget, I'm on the East Coast, and a lot of these cities had their rise previous to that. Likely was a lot of manufacturing around here. Many of those jobs are obviously gone. I think there's colleges here, so I think there's still, a youthful population. A lot of new stuff popped up around here out where I'm staying, like on the upper Front Street area. Lots of hotels, restaurants, stuff like that. So I was really excited to see that there was an arcade, and so I got to Robot City Games, and they're down on Clinton Road Boulevard, not sure, Clinton, closer to like the old area of Binghamton. And it's in like an older strip mall style building. Very cool logo in the window. Check out our website, Coast to Coast Pinball. I'll have some photos up of the outside of the store and then some of the games inside. And so when you walk in, it's like a video game store. And it's games. I think that's how the store started. It's called Robot City Games. And I'm assuming Robot City is in reference to, I think they were books. They were not written by Isaac Asimov, Asimov, but they were, I think, sort of inspired by him, or like he outlined what the story should be, and people filled in. Because he had a series of books about robots, and I think the Robot City books were written by other people, sort of in those lines, like right near either he had already died or was about to die or something like that. But anyway, I think that's probably where they got the name. So cool name. You walk in and it's just like tons of like cartridge games, like Nintendo games, Super Nintendo games, PS2, PS3, Xbox, every generation of cartridge games, and a lot of them. Pretty cool vibe though. It reminded me of going to like an old like record store or something. I liked it. It was kind of neat. And in the back left corner there was a doorway that went into a very nice arcade. And I've been in some sort of shady, dingy, small town arcades where a guy just sort of has an extra room in the back and he throws up some games. This was not that. This had good lighting. It had cool paint on the walls. They had a large selection of video games in there. I think over 40 upright video games looked like from all eras. I saw an old Pong game, and then I saw like modern, zombie shoot 'em up graveyard type games. Very cool. Everything ran on tokens. They had a token machine there. 4 pinball machines. Right when you walked in, there were 4 pinball machines. Pleased to see that 2 of the 4 games were actually being played right when I walked in. All, for the 45 minutes to an hour. I was there about an hour, I guess. 8 to 10 people in the arcade. Seemed like there were people coming in. Very cool. Hopefully they're making some money on this endeavor. It looks like they've been successful with the video game side of things. So that's pretty cool. So what are the games? What's the list? All right, I'll give you the rundown. I'm going to go from right to left. Batman Forever, Sega. Maverick, also Sega. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Very cool. It's a Data East game. And then our favorite at this podcast, Super Mario Brothers. So I got $5 in tokens, and I actually put $1 of those tokens back in the machine as I left. So I played pretty decently throughout the night. I never even touched Super Mario Brothers. I can't. I did hear the obnoxious music. It haunted me a little bit. Really, out of those 4 games, I was drawn immediately to Rocky and Bullwinkle, because it's the game out of those that I've personally played the least of. And I was really excited to play it. I think I'd only played it one time before, and I had actually read quite a bit about it a few months back, because there was one for sale in Phoenix that I considered trying to buy and make the drive for. I have a guilty pleasure love for Data East games. So I spent quite a bit of time on Rocky and Bullwinkle. I will say this about Robot City games. 50 cents to play, pinball, that's awesome. For 8 tokens, which is, let's do some math here, that would be $2, right? 8 tokens, 25 cents a piece, $2. Stay with me here. You get 5 credits. So you get a free credit basically when you go to $2. I thought that was pretty neat. The games all mechanically were very good. They all seemed to work fully. There were no burnt lights. There were no weak flippers. No kickouts that weren't responding. Everything was working, which was nice. I will say this, especially on Rocky and Bullwinkle, which had a really light playfield, it was very, very dirty. Like, all it would take would be 20 minutes of just cleaning those games every week, and they would just shine and pop even better, because they had the room nice and dark, so the lights looked good, the games looked good. Rocky and Bullwinkle is a very colorful game, and I think it has a neat look to it. So clean those play fields. Come on, let's keep these things in shape. So that was a lot of fun. I immediately just started kicking butt on Rocky and Bullwinkle, a game that I didn't really know very well, and I was sort of reading the rules card as I went and trying to figure it out and remember how it all worked. It's funny, my first game didn't last all that long, but I matched on it immediately. So that was nice. So it was like I had never played that first game. Then on the next game, I got 3 extra balls throughout the game, so it went on a long time, and I matched again. So he's clearly, I say they at Robot City Games clearly have the match setting percentages set pretty high, so very friendly games. So I matched twice in a row, which I don't know if I've ever matched twice in a row in any game ever. So that was pretty neat. And then my third game, I just rocked it. I mean, I was getting extra balls at every increment, and they had the extra ball increments pretty low. It was like every 50 million points was an extra ball. I think I ended up with 5 extra balls in this game. I played this one game, probably took 16, 17 minutes. I even had a guy playing the Maverick next to me kind of staring at me, because I just had it going, man. I was hitting the orbits, which are kind of a key part of that game. It was fun. I liked it. I had a good time. By the end of it, I could tell that there was these two guys that had sort of been playing Batman Forever and jumped on Super Mario Brothers, quickly realized the abomination that game is, and were just sort of waiting for me to get done. So then I just sort of started, flipping hard and just throwing the ball around, almost just trying to get rid of my credits. When I finally did that, I moved over to Maverick, played a game on Maverick. I like Maverick. I think Maverick's a fun game. Has the big DMD, that Sega was using. It's probably, of all the pinball machines, EM, solid state, whatever, that are kind of based on poker or cards, it's probably my favorite. I kind of like Maverick. I'm into it. I like the drop targets. I like some of the silly noises. I don't know. I enjoy the game. But then I jumped over to Batman Forever. I forgot how much I really like this game. Batman Forever is listed as the number 74 game on the Pinside Top 100. I think it's probably, of the Sega games. Sega bought out Data East, and then Stern bought out Sega. I think Batman Forever is probably my favorite of all the Sega branded games. It's fun. Interesting layout. I think that it's got some difficulty in some of the shots. Not super deep in the modes, and I'll be really honest, I don't know the rule set of that game all that well. I sort of know how to get certain things going. I know where to shoot for multi-ball, up to the up kicker, the capture the ball up kicker in the top. It's a pretty quick game. I will say this, the lighting is really good on that game. It's fairly dark. I like the wireform ramps, or not ramps per se, but like habit trails after the ramps. The right flipper ramp shot is difficult for me. I screw that up constantly. I actually really like it. It's a wide body game. I'm kind of drawn to wide body. I don't like some of the sounds. Like, there's a noise on some of the post targets, the little thin targets where a post would have been. I think it's the Riddler sound. It drives me insane. The Batcave plastics on the upper left side of the game, I don't like that. It blocks off a ton of the left side of that game. I can't see the ball often, and especially when you get multi-ball going, you lose track of balls really quickly on that. So that kind of drives me nuts. It also has the big, larger DMD. I think the DMD actually has some good stuff on it. Underrated game. I think this is a game that if you're patient on, you can definitely get for under $2,000, and I think it's worth it. I actually, if I had more space, this would be a game I would have no problem bringing into my place for 6 months to a year or something like that. I think it looks good. I think it plays pretty good. I think there's enough there to keep you interested for a while. So Batman Forever, definitely. So seeing these arcades popping up like this with pinball machines, it's a good thing. I think it sort of adds credence to the argument that maybe pinball's coming back a little bit. I did get some feedback. I had a couple people message me sort of arguing the points that I made about the resurgence of pinball in the last episode, saying that they didn't feel it was coming back and it's more dead locally and on location than ever. And I don't argue that. I know that on location pinball is not strong. I think the industry shifted. I think we all know that it's the home collectors are driving things now. But I do, in my travels, I am seeing pinball machines pop up. I think it's happening. It's happening in the big cities for sure. San Francisco, New York. I think LA is the next spot. I think we're going to have some more there. I don't know. It was good to see. It was really good to see Robot City Games. I love that now that in one of my smaller towns on my travels, I have a place to go play some pinball. So kudos to you gentlemen, whoever you may be at Robot City Games. This new segment on the show for a few days now. I've had it. I thought of it a long time ago and sort of forgot about it. I really need to write ideas down. I want to take sort of a snapshot look back in time by year, instead of just by game, but by year. We're going to take a single year and kind of go through the games that were released, and if there were any major happenings in that year, we'll try and bring that up. And this involves a lot of research on my part because I don't know all the details, and I have to actually go kind of learn it on some level. Some of the games I know a lot about, but the timing of them and what I don't always know. So this is a new segment here on Coast to Coast Pinball.
And the year was...
And the year was 1997. And I chose 1997 for a couple of reasons on this episode. First of all, it's the year I graduated high school. So that puts my age out there. Secondly, it's a year where not a whole lot happened. And I'm on the road right now, and I didn't have hours and hours and hours to make notes and do research. But I did have some time to kind of go through the year. And it's an interesting year, too, because it's definitely sort of this mixed bag year. 97, we had a couple what I think are all-time great games. We had some horrible games, but we were on the last days of pinball as we knew it. Things were about to, sort of die in some regards. Luckily, they didn't die, but they certainly went on life support shortly after. So 97 is an interesting year. So looking at 1997, just to give you, just to set the stage a little bit, Gottlieb was gone. So really the only people putting out pinball machines in 97 were Bally Williams, Bally, whatever you want to call it, Midway Williams, Bally, Midway Williams. And then you had Sega. Sega had bought out Data East's pinball. So in March was the first release in 1997. Bally Williams put out NBA Fast Break. 4,400 units were produced, so that's not a giant number for the 90s standards. We're sort of in the decline here. NBA Fast Break today now ranks as the number 116th game in the Pinside Top 100. It's a George Gomez design. It had some interesting, a very interesting layout. Obviously, you had the basket sort of in the back with the ramps leading up to the hoop, which was pretty neat. You had a basket in the back box too, sort of a back box toy. A sports theme was interesting at the time. I think the NBA was fairly popular in '97, if I remember correctly. I could absolutely see why they thought this was a good idea. Not hugely successful. I know that it also was a game that you could link two games together, so they were looking for ideas of ways to grow the game. And if you've watched the documentaries on pinball and listened to the comments that George Gomez makes and stuff, you can tell that this was a company that was trying to figure out how to keep the future going, and they weren't just sitting on their hands by any means. They were putting out some pretty innovative stuff. So that was in March. Also in March, Sega released the Star Wars trilogy game. So Star Wars sort of had this big comeback, and I think that's probably the year my mom bought me a box set of the 3 Star Wars movies on VHS stills before DVD had really taken over completely. And I think I never opened them because I ended up with a DVD player, right around the same time. So I never opened up these VHS tapes. Star Wars was sort of making its comeback. This is pre-Episode 1, but it was sort of the ramp up to that. You got, I think they probably, and I don't know this for sure, if they hadn't announced they were going to go back and make Episode 1, it was sort of planned out at that point. So Sega puts out Star Wars trilogy game. Not many games produced here. This game didn't go over very well. This is definitely when arcades were very, very weak and in heavy decline this time period. So they only ended up making somewhere between 2,200 and 2,300 of these games. This game ranks number 158th in the top 200 there. So Data East put out a Star Wars game in 1992, which is ranked actually way ahead of that. It's way up ahead of 158. So it's interesting that Sega couldn't make a game in 97 that lasted, had a better lasting memory, and to the majority of people, to the people who voted on Pinside and on other things, it's generally their 1997 Star Wars trilogy game is ranked well behind the 92 Star Wars game. I don't particularly like Star Wars trilogy. It's I think it's kind of a scattered layout. I don't love the art. Sega had this kind of style on their inserts and with the bubbles and colors around the inserts of that era that I don't care for a whole lot, especially on a game like Star Wars. Some themes it worked fairly well for. I don't like it really on that game. So then June rolls around. And what came out in June, in this kind of so far mediocre at best year for pinball releases? Medieval Madness. A little over 4,000 units of Medieval Madness are produced, and it's currently the number one ranked game on the Pinside Top 100. It's a Brian Eddy classic legend, the pinnacle of modern pinball, etc., etc., etc. Some think it's the greatest original theme ever put to use in a pinball machine. It would be hard to argue with that. It is what it is. You know, we've talked about it at length in another episode. So that was in June of '97. Same month, Sega releases another game, The Lost World Jurassic Park. Again, this is sort of like a redo because Data East had put out Jurassic Park, the pinball machine, in 1993, which currently is ranked number 52 on the top 100. So where does Lost World Jurassic Park rank? 262nd. And it's a John Borg design. I don't like the way it looks. It has lots of green and yellow on the playfield. I don't think it's a real cool looking game. It has a big egg toy in it. You hatch the T-Rex out of the big egg toy. I mean, I get what they were going for. There are drop targets that you hit and then clear the way for the snagger toy, which takes the ball. I've never seen one of these games in person. I'll be real honest with you. Anything I've seen about it's been through video or reading about it. They didn't make many of them. I don't have an exact number on this one. Not a success. Not a success at all. It's funny though. Do me a favor, just for giggles. Go look at the layout, and then go look at the Metallica layout. Just saying. Just saying. Some similarities there, Mr. Borg. So, that was in June. So in June, you had Medieval Madness by one company, the number one game of all time, and Lost World Jurassic Park, the number 262nd game of all time. Interesting. September, Sega releases another game. So Sega released 3 games. This is the third one. And they released X-Files. I think all accounts show only 1,500 of these were built. It's the number 198th ranked game. So they didn't have a good year. They released the number 158th, 198th, and 262nd ranked games in the Pinside top 200, 300, however far we have to go to rank these games listing. And X-Files, another game I've never played. Reading reviews of it and looking at it, this one might be a little underrated. It seems like people who have it really enjoy it. Again, the artwork. They have Mulder and Scully's faces just like right there on the playfield. I don't know. What can I say? I need to play the game. I can't pass judgment. Never played it. The public certainly doesn't think much of it. So Sega had a bad year. Not a lot going for him this year. In October, we had another game released under the Bally trade name. Williams Bally released what I think is... how do I put this? This game gets ripped on a lot, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And it's Circus Voltaire, John Papaduke. It's just really out of left field. Again, I think this just shows that the company was trying things. They were looking for things to spark pinball. And it's the kind of stuff that I think if they had done it in the early 90s, it would have really been noticed. But where we just were as a hobby and they were as in an industry, in 97, it wasn't enough. Because Circus Voltaire, for as awesome as it was, they only made 2,700 of them. But it was cool. Yeah, very out of left field. Cool toys. The Ringmaster toy is obviously, it's badass. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. The big evil Ringmaster raises out of the playfield. He has a magnet on his head that holds the ball. He's spring-loaded. It's awesome. Love that toy. There's a neon light down a tube in the game. Never seen that before. It's awesome. The ball in the little cage that kind of randomizes this thing is cool. Has a disappearing pop bumper. The pop bumper drops down into the playfield. Very cool. I know some old EM games had that, but it's the only solid-state game that I've ever seen them do it. It's just a really cool toy. It's number 15 all-time on the Pinside Top 100, so I can't call it underrated, but I hear a lot of people kind of slag on this game. It's expensive now. Sure, low production count. These games, you'd be lucky to touch one for $7,000. It's in good shape right now. Probably a lot more than that. But, so number 1 and number 15 to the Bally Williams crew so far. And then also, kind of to round out the year, to kind of top 1997 off in December, under the Williams name, they released No Good Gophers. No Good Gophers is a good game. It's fun. It's golf. It's a ripoff of Caddyshack. We get it. They made 2,700 of these also, so we're sort of in that, and I don't know if these numbers are dead on exact or not. They've been reported as confirmed. This is a Pat Lawler design. This ranks number 37 in the top 100, so they had 3 top 40 games. Their only kind of misstep, and if you want to call it a misstep, is NBA Fast Break, and I think that suffers from a theme that just a lot of people aren't turned on to, and sort of an artwork package that isn't all that appealing. But I think that, it's probably a little underrated of a game as far as just the play of it. So No Good Gophers came out. Not an ultra deep game. Great artwork. I mean, very cool. Not deep rules. No deep rules. I believe, if I remember correctly in this one, they never really optimized the rule set. Like, there should have been more code done to this game to flesh it out some. On my virtual pinball tables, I play this game. This is one of the games that I do play on my iPad. Very cool. So that's 1997. It's an interesting year, and I like to look at pinball releases sort of in those little time capsules, and we'll continue to do that. We'll go way back. We will do the Wayback Machine at some point after I spend a long weekend down at the Silver Ball Museum and can really brush up on my EM games. We'll do some of that. So I hope that's interesting to you guys. All right, we're going to do this. I got my Gmail open. Coast2Coast Pinball at gmail.com is where you can send me an email. Ask me questions, ask for my opinion for whatever it's worth, and I will do everything I can to answer for you. So, Kane, who just recently moved to San Diego, he wrote me back, and he's been listening to the last few podcasts, and he had a question for me. He asked me, are there any games you go out and play on location that just kick your ass? I'll bleep that, right? Maybe I won't. Who knows? If you heard it, I didn't bleep it. We're PG-13 here. I am a mediocre pinball player. He said that. I agree that I also am, but he said that. I really enjoy it and can usually pop a free game on a machine after I've had some time to play it. But this particular Pirates of the Caribbean at Pizza Port in San Clemente just kicks my butt every time. I've played other Pirates of the Caribbeans, and I was all right, but this one just gets me. The only thing I can see about this is the Tortuga post never raises, so it's incredibly hard to get the ball to stay up there and bounce around, and you get the Tortuga to get some big points combined with multi-ball. That's no excuse. Sort of sounded like an excuse, Kane. But I'm just amazed at how awful I score in that game. I always come home and play my World Cup soccer just to remind myself I have some pinball skill. So I thought about it, and yeah, there have been some games at times. And actually, we were just talking about Circus Voltaire. The first few times I played that game, I walked away just head spinning, like, what? Terrible. But I've since figured that one out a little bit and kind of found the tricks to getting some decent scores on that. So for me, when I think about games that sort of beat me up, Tron beats me up. Every time I play Tron, if Teresa and I go somewhere and we both play Tron, it's one of her favorite games. She kills me every time. I have very short ball times. I'm often doing this sort of like slow turn away from the machine in disbelief that my ball really drained that fast. She just, kind of sighs when I do that, but it's frustrating. I know what my problem is. I just aim at the identity spinning disc thing constantly. I just want to hit that shot over and over and over again, and I'm bad like that. So that game is definitely one that gets me, and that's all Trons. I've never really done that well on Tron. That's probably a game I'd like to have at home because I would be able to build up some shot skills on that game. Diner and Taxi, both of those games, I'm not even going to say those are difficult games because I don't think they're perceived that way. And I get that it's a pretty cool rule set where you're basically, especially, so Taxi, you're picking up the people and taking them where they need to go. I get it. I like that. I'm just not good at it. And Diner is so freaking ugly with all the red, I just can't focus on it. I've never been good at those games. Diner and Taxi, I don't even really play them anymore because I'm just so bad at them. And as far as like one particular example of one game, the last 2 times I've been to the Silver Ball Museum in Asbury Park, New Jersey, their theater of magic is set up so fast, and I think it's really steep. I suck. I'm horrible. It drains on me very quickly. The ball flings off the post straight down the middle. I like that game. I've had long ball times on other theater of magics before. That one gets me. I played at Pinball Wizard Arcade in Pelham, New Hampshire, and did just fine. But that one in Asbury Park, man, kicked my butt. I wish I had time to get down there on this trip to sort of have revenge upon that game. Driving me crazy, but that's a great question. I appreciate that game. That's kind of fun to talk about. So go get that Pirates of the Caribbean. If that's the same pizza port that I'm thinking of, I guess that's not, because there's a Pirates of the Caribbean at the Solana Beach pizza port as well, which is actually probably one of the closest location games to where I live. So try that one out. All right. This email is from Steve. Steve said he wanted to tell me he's enjoying the podcast, listens every day, glad to have more content, laughed out loud in episode 1 when I tricked him on the music. Okay, here's the bulk of it. We referenced Teresa going and visiting family in Oklahoma. Curious if I ever got out there, and wanted to let me know about a new arcade that is called Slingshots. And they have 50 machines, and I quickly looked up Slingshots. What I think Slingshots used to be called Cactus Jacks, which was a big arcade. It didn't have nearly 50 games, but it had a good assortment of games, including a Doctor Who. I remember I played quite a bit last year. I think I was up in Oklahoma around Christmas time, maybe. And if it's the same place, and yes, I've been there, but if they've added 50 games and sort of changed the focus from sort of quasi pool hall video game with a few pins to 50 pinball machines, I am very excited because I have a very good friend in Oklahoma City who I golf with a lot. So that's awesome news. Very excited to hear that. I can't wait to get back and check that out. So thanks for the heads up on that, Steve. That's excellent. Next email was from Eric. Eric said, appreciated the kind words directed towards No Fear from last episode. And I've been thinking about No Fear a lot. I really, if you didn't hear last episode, I think No Fear is super, super underrated. I think it's a fun game, fast game. I think the theme probably turns a lot of people off on that, because it is sort of like, motorsports and that sort of scene. And I don't know, even just the No Fear logo, it seems a little weird because it's sort of thought of as a clothing line to some. I guess it is a clothing line to some. So I don't know. He says he has his set on 5-ball because it's so fast and it can be a little bit of a drain monster. And he likes to have his friends and family actually get used to it and get the flow going. And he thinks there's a good chance at one of your 5 balls will, get that good, flow and get a challenge completed. And he goes with the 5-ball approach. I don't generally love the 5-ball approach just because I feel like I'm cheating. I always feel like I'm cheating, but a game like that, I could definitely see it. And he also makes a great point about No Fear, is it's a game that is, fairly quick, and the game times are shorter, and he can sort of sneak the games in. That's my problem with Twilight Zone at home, is when I start playing Twilight Zone, that could be 3 minutes, that could be 15 minutes. Party Zone was sort of my game where I could just, quickly play balls, and it would go pretty fast. But thank you very much for the email there, Eric. That's awesome. Patrick emailed me from Portland. He was listening to the episode where I was stuck in Bangor, and he said that's rough for all sorts of reasons. I must agree. He asked me if I'm ever in Portland, Maine, and he said we're pretty lucky here. There's a bunch of games on location. Coast City Comics downtown has 13 machines, including some of the games I've mentioned that I've been to, like Doctor Who and Attack from Mars, Nightmare on Elm Street. Champion Pub, very, very excited, is also down there in town. So yeah, I do go to Portland, Maine. That's part of my work territory, and I go out of the way when I go to Portland, Maine. There's a restaurant called The Great Lost Bear, which I think is the coolest name for a restaurant ever. The Great Lost Bear. Sort of just like a bar, pub food type place. Cheap eats, sandwiches, salads, appetizers. It's like my favorite place. And every time I have somebody else traveling with me for work, I take them to the Great Lost Bear. I haven't had an overnight trip in Portland lately, but now that I know all of that is there, I'm going to hit up Coast City Comics. So look for a trip report on Coast City Comics probably in September. September, I think. So thank you, Patrick, for that email. That's excellent. And I also had a note from Nick in Buffalo, wondering if I was still around. I was not still around, so sorry, Nick, but thanks for reaching out. Matt in Dover, England, the UK, emailed me with 2 questions. He wrote, are there any games that you would really like to purchase someday but are scared because of lack of parts or maintenance issues? I thought about that for a while. I'm not scared of much. I mean, obviously there's some really rare stuff out there that could pose a problem, but the one that sort of comes to mind, it's a game I actually would want, and years ago, before I really had the bug, back when I was living in Maryland, I almost had the chance to buy for like $500, and I didn't do it, because I was, at the time, very scared of maintenance. I didn't know anything about working on a pinball machine. Is Haunted House. I think Haunted House is awesome. It's so cool. The 3 playfield thing, just the artwork is neat. It has that just really kind of, I don't know, neat vibe to it. It's sort of a simple artwork package that does a lot, and I just really have always been very drawn to that game. But that, man, I have heard enough people talk about how hard that game is to work on, how heavy that game is, and some of the issues that pop up constantly on that game that I've now that game's gone up in price a little bit, I'd be scared to do it, I think. If I could have gotten one for $500, that would have been a good thing. But that's a game I'm very much looking to play a lot soon so that I can go real deep and do a real in-depth review on the gameplay and kind of the insides of that game. So I've been, needing to do that. And I know where one is in my travels to go play, so I need to go do that. Good question. His second question is, and do I really agree with the rankings on the Pinside Top 100? So I'm assuming he asked that because I reference them a lot. And I reference those rankings more because Pinside's a very active website with a pretty active, base of users. And if you look at the top, 10 games, there is some things that make you want to pause and only take those rankings so far. Because let's just look at it. Number 1, Medieval Madness. The game has over 1,100 ratings. Well, the number, if we go down not too far and get to the number, and I'll skip AC/DC and Metallica because those are newer games, but even, Spider-Man at 8 has about half the ratings at 671 ratings, and you don't have to go much farther down to find some really low ratings in the top 50. Like Fathom at number 49, which is a cool older game, only has 99 ratings. So it's like if we could get 1,000 people to play, say, the top 200 games out there and then rank them, yeah, that would be more accurate. And if you could take out sort of the bias that comes from, well, I own Twilight Zone, so I think it's better than Attack from Mars, because that plays into it for a lot of people. I don't care what they say. I just know it does. And then I think there's some games that get extra love just because the scarcity. I think there's some of that. Their rankings, I don't know all the science behind it, and I know I could figure that out very quickly because I think they tell you how it all works. But you have to have a minimum number of votes to appear in the rankings, and I think the time it's been out also plays into it. So a game like Metallica, which only has 98 ratings, which has only been out a few months, is number 10. Ranks high. The other thing is you're not going to have any negative ratings really early on for a game that has generally positive reviews. You might have a negative one here, but generally it's going to be mostly positive ratings, where I think you see a game like Whitewater, which sort of shot up in the rankings. If you go back to the much older rankings, I'm guessing, and I did not look at this to check out to see if I'm just talking out of my rear or not, I would guess that the oldest rankings might trend a little bit lower at some point. And actually, I did just pull up the rating history, and if you go back to like 2004, that game ranked quite a bit lower than it does now. It's actually been on a steady uptrend in ranking as people, I think, have sort of discovered how much fun that game could have long term, and people spend a lot of money on it. They tend to rank it higher. So do I take it as the gospel? No, but it's a really good reference to sort of put in perspective general feelings about games over a time period, because we're talking about games for the last 40, 50 years here, and there has to be some sort of way to sort them through. So I think it's interesting. I lean on Pinside a lot because it's where all the action is. and that's, sort of sad in a way, because, for a long time, the action was on recgames.pinball, and that's still active, and I do go there, and I will in the future probably pull some stuff off of that forum for forum static, but it's a different vibe. It's not as current, and this podcast is sort of trying to be current, trying to kind of take the view from my point of view and put it out there. So it's interesting. I do see some things in the top 100 lists that are just ridiculous, that I just think that's nonsense. A game like, there's some ones that are like Sopranos is ranked in the top 100, but then you see out of the top 100 a game like, I don't know, you can even, I could make the argument that, Space Shuttle or Space Station or Transformers Pro. Are you really going to tell me that Sopranos is a better game than Transformers Pro? Not a chance. Just no way to me. And that's my opinion. I think Rocky and Bullwinkle's a better game than Sopranos. I'm not a big Sopranos fan. So I see some of that, and I kind of, it is what it is. But good question. Definitely, always fair to ask. I don't take any offense to that at all. Thank you very much, Matt, for the questions. So there's episode 15 of Coast to Coast Pinball. It's in the books. If you'd like to get in touch with me, my name's Nate. You can find me on our website, which is www.coast2coastpinball.com, and you can use the number 2 in the middle of the coast. So coast number 2 coastpinball.com. I've got a blog there where I post some notes, some photos of where I've been. I'm gonna have some photos up from the trip report this week. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I always update everything on Twitter. So if that's your preferred social media outlet there, a social interaction outlet, our handle on Twitter is at C2C Pinball. You can find us there. And on Facebook, we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/coast2coastpinball. Coast2Coast Pinball. And Gmail is the best email. Go right to my phone, and I'll write you back when I get a chance to. Coast2Coast, Coast, the number 2 Coast, pinball at gmail.com. So I really appreciate it. If you got anything you want to chat with me about, shoot me an email. Let me know what's going on. I will have some more from New York City in the next few days. So thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.